Without further ado, let us move along to our next guest. As I said at the top of the show, I've been doing this particular program for 10 and a half, almost 11 years to be exact. June of 2009 was our very first episode. It started with AOL, it moved along to SB Nation, and now it is here with ESPN. And as I said at the top, we have been lucky to have the biggest names in the history of mixed martial arts on this program at least once. More often than not, they've been on multiple times. We've had some of the biggest names in the sport, from Royce Gracie to Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell to Conor McGregor. All the biggest names in the history of the sport have been on this program. But there has been one name over the years that has eluded me for one reason or another. She has refused time and again to appear on this program. And quite frankly, I didn't know why. In fact, the last time I actually did an interview with her was back in 2011. 8 years ago was the last time I spoke to this individual. But our long nightmare is over, my friends. It is over. It is actually happening. For the first time ever in the history of this show, the great Gina Carano will be on. But before we say hello to Gina Carano, here's a little quick trip down memory lane of Gina and I through the years. With Gina Carano. Gina, how's it going?
Hi, good. I don't ever get used to it. I don't ever get used to fighting. I don't ever get used to being in public or the tension. I just kind of, I'm awkward all the time.
Right. And apparently so am I, according to the internet. But anyhow,
are you?
That's what they say. I don't know.
You're not awkward.
They say I'm awkward. Yes, it's true.
Oh, sorry.
Friday are the weigh-ins. Look at that stomach, looking good. Are you, is everything in line? We're not going to see any other drama?
I don't think we're going to see any other drama. I mean, I'm doing pretty good right now, I don't
Have
think
like an awkward vibe to me?
No, but you hold the microphone here really long.
I haven't quite got it down when to switch over. Were you doing the worm, a push-up, or were you just lying on the ground?
I was doing the worm, which I can do.
You could.
I can do the worm. No.
Okay.
But I maybe next interview.
All right.
We have to build up the worm. We gotta, establish a little bit more of a relationship for that.
See, I messed up the mic thing again. I talked and didn't bring it over. Do you notice that?
He's got a complex now, and I didn't mean to give it to him. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Good to see you always.
Yes. As always, take care.
Bye.
Okay. Hopefully it won't be another 2.5 years before we see you again.
One eternity later.
Here I am shooting my shot with the great Gina Carano. I'm not sure if you know this, but I do a show called Ariel Helwani's MMA Show for ESPN, the worldwide leader. I've been doing it now for 1.5 years, and prior to that, I did it for 9 years. And yet, you won't come on. And so here I am, formally and cordially inviting you to appear on my show in the very near future. And there she is, in the flesh. Gina Carano, finally, 10.5 years. You're here. How are you?
Do I get to see you too, or do I just have to look at myself right now?
Just yourself. Just look at yourself the entire time. I just can't believe it. I don't want to look at myself. There we are.
Yay. Okay.
There we are.
I like this. Hi.
Gina, where have you been?
I've been in movie land. I've been filming. Yeah, I've been filming a lot. I was so nervous to come on here, and I want to tell you the whole reason throughout all of these. Oh yeah, are we gonna jump right into it, right?
Okay.
The whole reason was because I always wanted to come on and tell you something great. I wanted to tell you like, okay, I'm ready for a comeback, or I'm really super proud of this movie or something. So it took a while to get there, but so I'm here now.
Well, for me, it was like I would see you do interviews with other people, and I was like, wait a second, did I offend Gina over the years? Why do I see her doing stuff with other people? Why can't she at least just come on the show? We'll talk, we'll reminisce, we'll preview her upcoming film. I mean, you've been in some big films, Haywire, all this stuff, and yet I always got the stiff arm from the team, and I didn't understand why.
It was more about, I think it's easier to talk to people when maybe they haven't been following you so closely. So it was easier to talk to people that knew nothing. But I know you've been watching everything, so I wanted it to be genuine, and I also wanted it to be in a good place when I did get to, speak to you. So
8 years.
And I wanted to be proud. I wanted to be proud when I came on the show and be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And it's been about like almost a decade in the film industry, and I've had really highs and really lows, but right now I feel like I'm on a high. So I feel proud to speak and to talk about the stuff that I'm doing.
I won't belabor this point, but did you know that you were like the only fighter in the history of MMA to never appear on the show in the 11 years? Did that ever like get to your? I've said it a lot, but I was wondering if you actually knew this.
To be honest, like wait, where do you keep on disappearing to? Because I don't think this is fair. I think we have to
No,
have like even
you
playing
you
ground.
want the whole time. Okay, I'll be up there the whole time. I don't think people want to see me. They see me enough, but
No,
sure.
no, I need to see you because then I'm just talking to myself.
Okay, fair enough.
Um, what was your question? Oh, no, actually, to be honest, I want to be really honest. I don't really watch your show. Not
That's oh my God. That's the most amazing thing anyone's ever said to me. Please continue.
I, the way I communicate is like I watch your Instagrams, I
Sure.
watch your Twitter, and usually when I get to know someone, I won't even really watch their movies. Like I like to kind of keep it like that. So I feel like we're like friends, so I
Yeah.
don't really
Okay.
But so you look like you've been doing great.
Yeah, things are pretty good. I mean, since the last time we spoke, I work for ESPN. I have 3 children since the last time we spoke, so a lot's happened in my life. Things are good. But, it's funny, I always play that clip. I mentioned it. Like, I was even talking to my wife about it yesterday, and she's like, oh, I've heard you talk about this clip, the one at the very beginning, which I mistakenly
Yeah.
put as 2009 on Instagram. It was actually 2008, May of 2008. And I don't even think you realize why that clip is so important to me. And I'd like to tell you why it was so important to me, because that's when I started. I started doing this really in like April of 2008 is when I started doing on-camera interviews. So that was literally a month in. And I had just come back from Las Vegas. I went to Extreme Couture in Vegas and I interviewed Forrest Griffin. And it was a very strange interview. Like he kept touching me and he kept like pushing me and was very physical and touchy-feely with me. And I posted that interview the morning that I saw you at that Elite XC press conference in Times Square. And all the comments underneath, I remember this website, MMA Mania, posted it. And everything underneath was like, this guy sucks. This guy is the worst interview. He is the most awkward interview. He should not be interviewing fighters. He's such a scrawny punk, blah, 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 blah. And I felt so down. I was like, I'm done. Who needs this? I'm not going to deal with this. I'm not going to take this. This is horrible. I felt so low. And then I went to that press conference and to the naked eye, nothing special happened. But then we had that thing with the microphone. And what it did for me was like, you need to stop overthinking this. You need to just be yourself. You need to just have fun. And the fact that you kind of just like talked about how weird I was and awkward I was actually made me feel a lot better and made my confidence skyrocket. And that for me was a turning point early on in my career. So that's why it meant so much. And that's why talking to you meant so much. And I wanted to tell you that because you helped me indirectly. I don't think you knew that you helped me so much. But that interview for me is a real turning point in my life and career. And so I wanted to thank you for it all these years later.
And that means the absolute world because, well, I hope I'm just as awkward and uncomfortable. And I think the whole world knows that. So hopefully I'm just out here making a lot of, awkward, uncomfortable people realize that their dreams can be reached. Because I'm out here doing it. So
Yes, you're an inspiration to us all.
no.
Okay. Now that we've talked about all that, now I have some serious questions to ask you. And things are going great. Mandalorian, Disney Plus, everyone's very excited. Cara, Dune, there's a lot of exciting things. But there's some unanswered questions,
Cara.
right? Cara, sorry, I'm Canadian. Cara Dune, is it Cara Dune? Sorry.
Yeah, no, but the entire world mispronounced it, and it's kind of become like I actually think I made Pedro Pascal pee his pants in an interview. Like literally, I think he might have peed his pants because he's like, "Oh my gosh, everybody's saying your name wrong," and I'm like, "Nobody says my name right except for me," which is
Okay,
kind of
so
like a
Cara
funny thing.
Dune, like Carano,
Yeah,
Cara Dune. Okay. And there she is. The
there she is.
aforementioned Cara Dune. Okay, so if you don't mind, I would just like to go back a few years, and then we'll get to the stuff here. You have some time, right? You're not going anywhere. You're not that busy today,
No,
correct?
I'm all yours. Yeah.
Okay. Why have you never fought again?
Oh, right to that. Well, so after the cyborg fight, I got in a car because it was in San Jose, and I got in a car and I drove down the one, and I went all the way to San Diego. And I was just thinking, what am I going to do with my life? That really didn't go as well. I just fought the best in the business. I don't think that I was entirely ready at that moment to have fought her, but I just remember thinking that all those years, like I remember there was a big fight between Layla Ali and somebody else, and it was like the $1 million fight, and it never transpired. And then I always used I would always see like these, big fights never happen, and I just knew that that's not what was going to happen with me. I was going to fight Cyborg whether I was ready or not, and so I did. So definitely wasn't how. I mean, I feel like if I could have just gotten into that second round, I feel like my nerves would have calmed down, and the adrenaline dump I had would have just everything would have calmed down. But my mom used to tell me when I used to play basketball, I would probably foul out in the first quarter because there was 4 quarters at that time. I don't know what there is now, but there was 4 quarters, and she would be like, "You need to take about 4 laps around the entire high school before you get back in there, before you go in the first quarter, because my adrenaline just gets so high. And so if I don't get to a place where I'm completely exhausted, even in acting, to be honest, I just kind of like it's just too much energy. So I feel like if I was gonna make it into that second round, I would have relaxed a little bit, but that didn't happen. So on my way to San Diego, thinking, you know, this is the biggest thing in my life, and at those moments you think. I see a lot of fighters now, and I see a lot of actors, and anybody who does anything, they have this moment of it's the end of the world. Um, and so I was having like one of those end of the world moments, but I can tell you now that I've had so many end of the world moments that you get past the end of the world and then things somehow end up working out and it ends up being okay. So for those people out there who might be experiencing an end of the world thing, it's not the end of the world until your heart stops beating. So stick in there. So I was having one of those moments, and then 3 days later, I still got, like, I took an elbow to the top of my, I think it was my left eyebrow, and all the blood was like seeping down into my eye. And this agent, who wasn't really even my agent, he decided to be my agent after this phone call called and said Steven Soderbergh wanted to meet with me. And I said, well, I'm in San Diego, and he's like, that's fine. He'll hop on a train and he'll come out, and you guys can go to lunch. And of course, my mom was like, all the horror stories you hear about like directors in Hollywood. And she's like, no, 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 I'm going with you. And I was like, Mom, I can probably literally kick his ass. I think I'm okay. Um, so then we had a conversation, and he said that it was a 4-hour conversation. And he said, look, I don't have a script yet, and I don't have anything, but I think you're interesting, and I think I'd like to make a real life action movie off of you. And so that happened just the week after, just a couple days after. I felt like it was kind of one of those end of the world things. So that was my entry into doing film.
And that was Haywire, right?
That was Haywire.
And do you feel like if that wouldn't have happened, if you didn't get this meeting with this great director, that you would have stayed in MMA? Was this some sort of distraction that allowed you to exit the sport?
Oh, for sure. No, I definitely. Well, I mean, there's not a day that still doesn't go by that I don't get down there on the treadmill. I have a heavy bag in my, I have a heavy bag in my garage, and all my best friends are fighters still. There's not like a day that goes by that I don't think about when I'm working out. At least I'm like, there's not somebody I'm kicking in the head or some sort of like scenario, because I did this sport really did doing Muay Thai changed everything for me. It took me from not a very good situation in Las Vegas, from this like little apartment building where everybody was so strung out where I was living that they had taken all the smoke detectors out, and they thought like the FBI and like my family was involved or something. With some, there's a lot, and I've lost a lot of friends to where we were living at, and when I was 19 years old. So when I started fighting, it just focused me. I was supposed to be going to college for psychology, and that wasn't really like, it was like doing nothing for me. And so when I started fighting, it zeroed in all of this energy that I had, and put it towards like, well, like training, and just became absolutely obsessed with it. So Muay Thai was definitely my first love, and fighting saved my life in a huge way. So
And
I think that yes, I would have just definitely kept on fighting had it not been for that opportunity that I got. However, at the time, you have to understand, like at the time, there was nowhere else to go. I had reached like the top. Um, and so here was a whole new challenge in front of me in this movie business that I feel like I could really get into, and it was challenging, it was hard, and I'm still not a natural at it. Like, it's very like it destroys you sometimes. It's just as hard as training, it's just a different thing. And I just I don't I just kind of let myself like go away with that for and I'm still in that in the acting world.
Did you want to be an actress, or did he convince you? Like, was this something that was on your radar, or was it just something that was presented to you, and because you had just suffered this loss, you're like, yeah, maybe this is something I could do now?
I don't know. No, no. I always thought that because I don't know why everybody tells fighters this or anybody tells anybody this. Like, you know, they're like, okay, when are you gonna go Hollywood? Like, that's such a like easy thing to do. By the way, that's like almost nearly an impossible thing to do. Like, um, so when I was younger or when I was fighting, they would say that those things to me, and I would be like, that never even crossed my mind. And if that is gonna like come to me, it's gonna be because the right person finds me. And those were literally my thoughts when anybody ever would ask me, when are you gonna go to Hollywood? So those were, and it just so happened that one of the best directors in this generation came and found me. So there's certain things that I do put out there, and that I still in here like that I'm putting out there now that I don't know, I don't want to come off as like a weird energy person or anything, but I do think that things you call out to things in your heart and they happen. Like where you're at, Ariel, like I think you really wanted to be who you are right there. And you're making it happen through everything that you've been through. You stayed with it, you stuck with it, and now, I mean, you got that big ass microphone in front of you that you don't even have to hold.
Isn't it wonderful? Yes, I don't have to worry about holding it too long at the subject's face. That is a good point. I never thought of it that way, but that is a good point. As my voice cracks, my palms are very sweaty right now. How about you, Gina? Same thing?
I'm so funny. I shouldn't have worn a
Okay.
sweatsuit.
Okay. I just wanted to
I've
make
got
sure.
my comfortable stuff on. My hat is my comfort
Yes,
blanket. I've got these little hand things, but I'm still. Um, it's really nice to talk to you.
it is. It is. Okay. So back to my questions. Um, True or false? Did, did they dub your voice in Haywire? Was that not really your voice?
That is true. That
Why
is
did they do
absolutely
that?
true. Well, I think what happened was with so I didn't know anything about reshoots. So I went away for reshoots, or I went away to Thailand to go kind of like clear my head because um, something kind of all right. Well, if we're just running it, um, well, something kind of traumatic happened right before Haywire. I had a miscarriage. It wasn't like on an on purpose thing. It was a very accidental thing, and so I was in a very fragile, I think, position moving into Haywire as it was. And then when we went and shot Haywire, I just gave it everything. I was able to ignore what was happening in the world. I was able to ignore everything, all the pain I was feeling inside. And I literally just dove straight into this movie, and I didn't come up for a breath of fresh air. So after we got done shooting Haywire, I came out and all of those things started hitting me of what I had been through right before we went and shot it. So, I went to Thailand and I went to heal basically emotionally and physically and just get my head straight. And I remember looking in the mirror in Thailand thinking, like, who are you? Like, what happened? And I was devastated. So during that time, Steven Soderbergh and Relativity were going back and forth with like creative differences for this movie, and they were starting to drag me and throw my name in the dirt and tell them, like, well, you got a first time actress, what do you expect, and all this stuff, and so I think that in an awful way, I wasn't given an opportunity to finish the film because I did, after 4 weeks, I came back and we did reshoots, but for some reason, I wasn't allowed to go in and finish it. Um, and I don't think that that was anything malicious, but I think it was something that gave me a hard time from the get-go in this business is my entire voice was robbed of me. And you're going to take a already kind of uncomfortable, awkward, shy person who's just trying to do their best in life and has been through something a little bit traumatic, and then take away their voice and not let them finish a project they gave blood, sweat, and tears to, and it was hard. But saying that, he gave me the opportunity, Soderbergh did, and where I'm now is, I mean, Jon Favreau came up to me because most of the people in this business know that's what happened, um, and well, they don't know the depths of it, like I just told you, but he came up to me and he said, "I don't like what's happened with you and to you in this business, and the Mandalorian is we're gonna make it right on this."
Wow. To hear that from Jon Favreau, that must feel amazing. First off, I'm very sorry to hear about that. I didn't know that you went through that, the miscarriage. So I'm very sorry about that. And that just, now that I know what happened with The Voice and you're coming off the loss and everything you've been through, was there a point where you're just like, screw all of this? I don't want anything to do with Hollywood. I don't want anything to do with the limelight. I just want to go away. I don't want anything to do with anyone.
I did that. I have done that. What I really liked, I mean, I really love fighting. What I don't like about it is you have to be so accessible and you have to be so yourself all the time. And I don't really like to be accessible all the time. I like to disappear. And I like to go find myself in weird, strange places and where nobody knows who you are, and just I've traveled this world. I've done a lot. Like I do a lot alone, and I don't know if that makes me a weirdo, but I just think I just like people's natural reactions before they know that you're an actress or you're a fighter. I just kind of like to know people's real reactions. But what was the question?
I was wondering, I know you've been through a lot, so I was wondering if you soured on Hollywood at that point, where they take your voice away, and you're like, I don't want to continue down this path. Maybe this world isn't for me, Hollywood, and maybe I go back to fighting, because it was around this time where there were some rumors. I remember, I think there was an announcement at an event in Dallas, a Strikeforce event. They said you were coming back. You were going to fight Sarah D'Alelio, and everyone was excited. You were even on the poster. And so I guess I'll ask, like, what happened there? Why didn't you come back?
Well, so there were so many times in my life that I wanted to come back, and there's so many times I was writing the fine line between being an athlete and being, well, to be honest, most of the time in my head, I was a fighter. I wasn't an actor for a long time, maybe up until a couple years ago. So I would constantly think, okay, I'll just get through this movie and then I'll come back, or I'll just do this and I'll come back. And I have so many dues I need to pay. I came in on such a hot like director and an incredible like movie in Haywire that like I don't know. I just felt like I needed to put in my dues. And so every single time though, I would try to come back for a comeback, like something some crazy job that you as an actor just wish would just come through just came through. And so the specific time I was training in New Mexico with Greg Jackson's team, who I adore, and I had a really great time there. I stayed there for about 3 months, uh, and I was gonna go do this big comeback, and I think I was gonna fight Sarah. Um, what had happened with that is I was headed to Las Vegas, and the day before, it's really funny how things work. Julie Kedzie and me were sparring, and I was nervous about my weight and I was all that, but I really shouldn't have been because I was 10 off and that would have been fine. Um, and we're like 3 weeks out. I think we were 3 weeks out. So I was totally good there. But me and Julie were sparring. And Julie, by the way, like she freaking kicked me straight in the right here. She kicked me straight right there. And I am not a bleeder, so when I bleed, like it's like oh shit, And I just gushed blood, and I felt like all sorts of sideways, and I had to get on the plane a couple hours later, and I was just like, all right, well Julie caught me. That's hilarious. And then I went and got on the plane, and I went home, and I was looking at my mom. We were at Mary Callender's actually, and I was like eating turkey and salad because I was still cutting weight. And my mom was like, "You don't look so good." And and when somebody you love tells you that, which is maybe why it's good to stay away from you know, family before you fight, it just kind of creeps in your head. But I ended up going to the doctors and they checked me out, and I had gotten a concussion and vertigo and the whole line of stuff. And I was just already just emotionally kind of like not ready to go back, and more like the fight doesn't bother me. It's more so of like the nerves of being out there on this big stage that always affected me and made me So emotionally, that is always like my biggest giant. Fighting a girl, like anyone, I've sparred with some of the best in the world, and sometimes you take your licks, and sometimes you're like, damn, I did pretty good there. So like that doesn't bother me, the physical stuff, but like it's like sometimes people aren't really built for this stage that you guys put them on. So that's what happened with that one, and a couple other times I think I tried to come back, and then those other times I tried to come back, it was like, "Oh, well, we got Deadpool and this and then," and I had to finally 2 years ago just, you know, I decided to tell myself, "Well, like, if you're not gonna take yourself seriously as an actress, how you expect anybody on this planet to take you seriously?" And so I got back into acting classes, and I started researching, and I'm obsessive. Like, I think I've been to the theater 3 times this week because I'm shooting season 2, but, like, it's all I wanna do is put out something that I'm, like, really proud of, hopefully someday that I've created. So that's, like, that's my new passion, but
Okay, well, we skipped over a lot there, so let me go back if I
yeah.
can. Um, I think I'm asking this question on behalf of every MMA fan on the planet because when they made that announcement, there's a famous GIF that came from it, and that's the one of you biting your lip. What are you thinking of when you are biting your lip on camera there? You know the one I'm talking about, right? That's when they said you were coming back, and there's the one that everyone always posts anytime something happens about you. But I've always wanted to know what you were thinking. Like, why did you bite your lip in that moment?
Um, biting my lip has always been a way. I am like I'm naturally like a shyer. Like I'm not. I think I'm shy. I think it's always been a way to control my face.
Okay.
Like if you bite something, like the inside of your cheeks or your lips, which I'm not going to do, but because then it'll be forced. But like it's just a way of controlling something when you feel nervous. So that's all that has ever been.
You know that's a thing, right? You know that gets posted like a million times anytime you do something relevant to the world of MMA.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. I think I'm glad.
You've been
As long as
immortalized by that one lip biting scene. Now, the other one that I've been dying to ask you, again, I haven't had the opportunity to talk to you since. I'll just keep subtly mentioning that here and there. 2014, there were some intense rumors that you were in talks with the UFC to fight Ronda Rousey. How close were you to actually fighting Ronda Rousey and fighting in the UFC?
So I remember Dana had finally called after all these years, not called me, but like called my representatives. And they said, they'd like to sit down and have a conversation. So, I actually met Dana long ago um, when he was doing the WEC, and I was fighting for Strike Force, and they had said, him and Lorenzo came in, and or I went to their offices, and they said, "Hey, you don't have to fight the cyborg chick. Why don't you come over here and fight for the WEC, and why don't you fight for us?" And I was like, "Well, I've got a contract, and Scott Coker's always been pretty good to me." And they said, "We can get you out of it. We won't be able to directly like be involved, but we'll finance it." And then I just thought, I said that I signed this contract, and that's my word on there. And I said to the people and all the fans that I said I was going to fight Cyborg. So um, I just didn't want to get into like this messy like legal battle that where I had said I was going to do something all before the Cyborg fight, and then never let it happen. So I just and I think that was my last fight on that contract. So I ended up fighting Cyborg and kind of brushing that off. But then cut to like I don't know when Ronda Rousey became popular, I remember they finally called for a meeting, and I walked in. They were like in this restaurant, and they looked like two I don't know, just like two like big, muscly guys at a table in like the middle of like Hollywood. And I remember thinking, what took you guys so long? I've been not like what took you so long? And so they were like, okay, well, we'd love to offer you $1 million. We'd love to, have that fight. And I was like, um, well, that sounds great. I'm gonna need you to do me a favor then, because I've been acting now, and I'm not active in any gym. So it's gonna take me. It's gonna you're gonna have to give me some time to build a team and go join a team, which is not an easy thing, as sure as all the fighters know in this. You have to find a team or build one that's gonna like be into what you're doing. And if you haven't been like actively a part of anything, you can walk in as Gina Carano or whoever, and you still have to like, find the people that are gonna really be there for you, and that takes time. So I told him, you got to just be able to sit on this for about 6 months, Dana. Like you can't say anything and let me like get situated with that in mind because that sounds great, and I'd love to do it. And so it was a nice dinner, and we all left, positive, and I left stoked, and I was like, okay, well, this makes sense. This is my moment to come and be back in there. And then like the next day, Dana was out there talking about me and like saying, talking about my name and like telling the people that he was going to sign me, and I don't even have a team yet. And I was like, that's not what we discussed. You're supposed to give me at least 6 months to kind of like find a team. Like, and then he started trying to put on the pressure through the media, and then it just really kind of, it was a bummer because I told him over text message, like that's not what we talked about. I need time. I can't just like, now I'm gonna walk into a gym and people know that's what I'm doing. I need to build trust. I need to find people. And so then he kept on doing that. He kept on doing that. And I'm still, still kind of searching for a team and like feeling all that pressure. And then he sent me a text message that said, "This bitch isn't. This bitch isn't. This bitch isn't like something us around, like effing us around or something like that." And I sent a text message back. I said, I think that you sent that to the wrong person." And he said, "I don't think I did." And that was the last conversation that we had over text message, because I don't think that that was like the kind of environment I wanted to come back into. And so I just cut all communication after that text. And then I remember seeing him when Mike Tyson and my dad were getting honored at a sports hall of fame in Las Vegas. And he did come over and he genuinely apologized. But yeah, I just don't think that even $1 million, you shouldn't, you know, when people hold money over your head, which they have done since I was a little girl, it's just never been a turn on for me. If it aligns, I don't have a problem with authority. I just have a problem with abused authority, is my thing. So that was the end of that conversation.
Wow. I had no idea about that. Wow. That is wild. So is that when the UFC dream ended in your mind, that you would never fight there?
Well, I mean, UFC, yeah. But there was always Scott Coker and there was all these things. But then I really, really have enjoyed doing this acting world. When I came up and when I was fighting, it was kind of like a known thing. Like you had to have a side hustle. You had to, and I've always believed in, if I make myself to where they need me, then I can do what I want. And so to not rely on anybody, to not rely on promotions, and to make myself somebody to where they need me, I learned that early on. So I don't know. And then I don't know. And then I don't know how I even got here, but
I remember tweeting you the week of UFC 184 when it was Ronda Katzengano and Holly Holm, Raquel Pennington, the first time ever that it was two females headlining and co-headlining the card, so 4 in total, and asking what you thought of it all. And as you saw this actual explosion of women's MMA, and it happened with a new person, with Ronda Rousey, and she became the face of women's MMA. And I know you used to never like that term. You never wanted to be called the face of women's MMA, but you were the face of women's MMA. You got it on broadcast television. You were the first one. You were the pioneer. I know there were some before you, but you were the one that broke through those doors. What did that feel like, watching that happen without you, not being a part of that? Were you happy? Were you sad? Were you missing out? You're missing out on all of this. Did you feel like it was an extension of you? How were you coming to terms with that?
I think for moments in my life, I have been, well, I've always felt so silly because there was always girls that came before me. There was Debbie Purcell, Erin Tohill, Shayna Baszler, Marlis Conan was there before me. But I mean, it was so small. So Angela Parr was in Muay Thai before me, Lucia Riker. You know, there's like so many incredible women, female athletes that came before me. So at the time, I felt so silly. I didn't understand this whole face of anything. But now when I look back, I really am genuinely proud to have played that role in it, and I'm still proud to have played the role of, you know, I did want to be the first woman in the UFC, and I when I watched that, it hurt in a way, but at the same time, um, like look at my life now. So it was a dream that didn't get to happen, but I was able to open up doors for women to walk into gyms and make it be easier, and I'll always cherish that.
Why does this make you emotional? Is this sadness that's coming out, or happiness?
It's I know how how hard it was to walk into gyms. Um, you know, like there was moments where they would tell, yeah, I just went in and I kept my mouth shut and I just did my job. But there was moments where they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, it smells like fish in here! Like, get him out of here! Get him out of here!" Like talking about the women who I needed as training partners. And so, I mean, I've seen how hard it was. And now when you go to like a Muay Thai place or you go to BJJ and you get to see like these little girls just kicking ass, that's where I feel like I've actually made some sort of difference in history. And even Ronda herself said that when she saw me and Julie do that, you know, when she saw us fight on, you know, Elite XC, um, that it just clicked in some of their brains that we could do this too, and we could do it in a big way. And so I might have not gotten credit for things, but that's just fine because there's women out there who have a bigger dream now, and it's easier to live and to you know really just go for something. Whereas I missed out on doing it, but they can.
When Ronda lost and then lost again and then left the sport, I always wondered if it brought up old memories, bad memories for you, because then your name got brought up again about how, like, when the going got tough, she left. And I think people, without knowing about the movie story, thought, all right, you lost your first fight and then you left. Did you feel like those old memories, that old wound was reopened when she lost to Amanda Nunes for the second time and then never came back again, and the way she handled it because she was being related to the way you left the sport?
You know, I've never really. Me and Ronda are not the same. We've got very different, I think, personalities. But I think that something you have to respect in that woman is that she's given it everything. And so on every single one of those fights that you saw her out there and handling the pressure of the big shows and like you know, performing basically and and through the hate. I just I have nothing but respect in her. And even still she went and started doing that in, you know, the WWE, and people still kind of like some people just love to hate, some people I don't see it. I mean, I don't know her personally. I always think that you have to look someone in their eyes before you decide how you feel about them. I've only met her once, so I don't really know her, but I see the hard work that she's put in um, and the powerful personality that she is. So yeah, I don't know.
Only
Probably
met her
lost track
once.
of the yeah.
What were the circumstances surrounding that?
It was before a fight that we were both attending, and I remember I'd heard of her, and then like she walked up to me, and I was wearing like stilettos. I was wearing massive heels, and she walked up to me and she said, "You're not that big."
Sizing you up?
Yeah, well, no, she did it with a very sweet smile, and I was like, "Hi, Rhonda. It's nice to meet you." And I gave her a big hug, and it was not like a egotistical. It was like a mutual respect, and it was really like a nice moment. And that's the only time I've ever met her.
Wow. So you also mentioned, like, a couple of years ago you decided you were done, and I know Scott, when he took over Bellator, Scott Coker, there was some talks of maybe you coming back and fighting for him again. How close was that to happening?
Um, I definitely have had contracts, and I just kind of think that you can't do this half-assed. You have to be in it, fighting. and acting. And if there's anything you want to do successfully, I think you have to give it your full heart. And if there's anything I've realized, I think that my heart is definitely. If you've got a movie and if you got a fight and you choose the movie, then you know where your heart is at. So that took a long time for me to realize, but uh, now I'm completely obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed with the entire thing of storytelling um, and also maybe hopefully kind of creating an atmosphere in the future where I think we see a lot of our veterans and a lot of our favorite fighters that want to be done and they have nowhere to go. And I think to kind of create a place where I've been through all of that, and if I can help in any way in my future storytelling and my future dreams, then I'd love to help that because I mean, I learned from like scratch, but I have all these ways that I learned, and I can speak to people in a way that I think that might help them. So, say if I was directing a movie, which is definitely a dream of mine, um, I get stunt coordination and I get stunt scenes and I get all of that. My biggest thing is I want to tell a really genuinely good movie, so or a good story, and so I think that's a very there's a very good way to incorporate those two, and there's a very good way to incorporate the people and the fighters that we love so much. But I think they need to be handled with somebody who knows where they're coming from. So hopefully, I'll be able to do something like that in the near future.
I will admit, amid these sort of talks that maybe Scott was going to be able to get you to fight again, I noticed not to say that I'm looking at these things with a going through them with a fine tooth comb, but I did notice that I remember way back in the day you and Kevin Ross were an item, and then you announced that you were back together. And I was like, oh, she's training more. I noticed on Instagram you were training more. You're dating a fighter again. It felt like the fight game was kind of drawing you back. But now I don't see that as much. I don't see the training as much. I see the movie stuff as much. So it seemed like there was a moment there where you were seriously considering this. Like it felt like you were more a part of the fight world at events, things like that. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no. Wow, you really have been watching. Yeah, no, I definitely moved up to Northern California to CSA, a
Right.
beautiful gym up there, and that's where Kevin was training at the time. And yeah, like I definitely wanted to give it a go, but then what happened is Deadpool came up, and you know, I tried to turn Deadpool down at least 4 times because when the Colossus thing happens, and like the hand covers the boob. Well, they they said we're not going to give it to you unless you show your boob, and I was like, well, that's okay, then I'll walk away. And they're like, well, okay, but just like consider it. And I'm like, there's no way. Like I'm not a prude or anything, and I'm not opposed to sex, and I'm not opposed to like the sexual form and body and all of that. But I'm gonna be damned if that's the time I'm gonna like get that out. So I walked away from it 4 times, and I was like, that's fine. In my heart, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be over here training for a fight, and then they ended up coming back around and they're like, okay, we'll put Colossus's hand in the way. It's fine. And I'm glad I did that because I had the experience of like, and it's obviously what I want to do. I had a fight and I had a movie and I chose the movie, and that seems to be the way that things have gone.
And so you're done. You don't even think about fighting anymore. It's all about the
I think
movies.
about it. I think about it every single time I hit that heavy bag down there, and I think about it. But if you were to ask me if I had the decision today, I mean, I would choose a movie because that's where my heart is and that's where I want to be, and that's and I hope that maybe someday. I mean, if I really wanted to fight, I could just go and I could pick up a fight in England or Thailand or somewhere, and just do a Muay Thai fight and do that and just get it out of my system. But for right now, I'm working on a script. I'm working on this other giant that's become my fight now. And I train and I love fighters, and I'm actually a bigger fan of the sport than I ever was. Because when I used to watch fights when I was fighting, I would get anxiety just by like watching them. And now I watch them and I watch the personalities and I pick out the people that I adore, and I follow them to the core, by the way, which also you fans out there, your voices your voices mean more than you know. And when you find someone that you love, and when you find a fighter that you latch onto, like, follow them through thick, follow them through thin, follow them, support them. Your words matter. We read our comments. Your comments. We read your tweets. I mean, it's easy to say that you don't care, but we do care, and we are human. And there's a whole new atmosphere where, people just want to drag people down for the mistakes that they're making. Well, we're all going to make mistakes, and we're all flawed. So might as well just, like, start attracting and supporting the people, even if you never meet them, the people that, because you never know, maybe just by doing that, you can make that person's world, like, you can make that person's world so much better.
One last thing, and that's very well said. And I appreciate you saying that, because I think sometimes the fans get a little too negative towards the fighters, and they don't realize that stuff really cuts deep. One last thing on the fighting. This past August was the 10-year anniversary of that fight against Cyborg. And I was wondering how you felt when it's an anniversary, especially 10 years, things get brought up again and get featured again, and how you felt August 15th when that date came around, and even how you felt over time. She tested positive a couple of years later, and if your feelings, do you have hard feelings towards her? Is it hard for you to watch that fight knowing how things panned out?
Cyborg is, well, personally, like, she's not actually a fighter I really like to like, this is not in a hateful way. I don't like her style. I don't like the way she fights. She's not somebody that, like, I personally really like to watch fight. I like, um, but at the same time, she's one of the nicest human beings, and I can see that I've watched her struggle, through everything that she's struggled through, and I respect her struggle, and I respect, like, she's not a perfect human being, just like I'm not. I mean, like, nobody's perfect here. We're all flawed. We all have some sort of addiction or some sort of, like, fucked up thing that, like, we get stuck onto. So, like, her thing and her life, like, who am I to judge what, she went through? And, I don't know what it's like for her raising up. So no, there's never, and there is not any hate. There's anything, if anything, there's love to continue watching Cyborg's journey, and her story. And I'm fascinated how that's going to play out. And I'm fascinated on so many of these fighters out here. I mean, all of my fighters that I adore watching, the Diaz brothers, Kevin Ross, and, a lot of these people that I've trained with, eventually they get to a point where they're not going to be able to do this anymore. And I think I think that's a really scary thing for someone who's put their entire life into the sport. And it makes me nervous, but at the same time, if there's any living testament to, you get one door slammed on you, you go again, you try something else, and you keep trying. And even if it takes you a decade, if they do that to your voice, or some Brazilian beats the shit out of you on national television, I mean, would you believe my dreams are so much higher than they are even right now? I'm so excited to keep on, like, seeing how high I can raise this life of mine in this bar. So I just, I don't know, support your fighters, support the people that you know, not all my favorite fighters win. In fact, they usually don't win. And I love that about them.
And so now you have this opportunity, Cara, Dune, The Mandalorian, Disney Plus, which, by the way, I do believe you premiere in this coming up episode, right? Episode 4. Is that accurate? People keep asking me, or are you not allowed to say?
I'm not officially allowed to say.
Okay, all right.
But this has absolutely been one of the best projects I could have been on, and I love my character, and the whole reason why I am coming on. Of course, please watch The Mandalorian. I don't think it needs any of my help or needs you to tell you that. But Ariel, I'm just really glad I had something proud to come on and tell you, because I am proud of this project, and I think that the sky's the limit from here.
Where were you at? I've heard you talk about Jon Favreau coming to you and saying that we created this character for you. And I know, I'll be honest, I'm not a big Star Wars person, but I know that when you are attached to one of these Star Wars films, there's the aforementioned Jon Favreau legend.
Legend.
you're tied for life, right? Like, I mean, that is something that sticks with you for life. Conventions, I mean, you are part of that family forever. And so I'm wondering, I've also heard you say how it's sort of like saved your career to get this opportunity, that maybe you were trying to find the thing and be accepted in Hollywood. Where were you at before he came to you with this?
I was, I was in Vancouver hitting my head on like, ice blocks, like I literally jumped into an ice pool and like came up, hit my head, and like I was doing my own stunts, which I do my own stunts, not to take away from the stunt community, but like I wasn't in the league of people that were passionately telling good stories. And I was drowning, like I was just out there drowning, um, and really wondering, kind of that moment with Cyborg, when she beat me, like, what am I going to do with my life now? How do I, because I have to be passionate. I have to like do something that I'm proud of. I have to create. I feel like an artist more than ever. So, um, I just, when I got that phone call, it was actually 10 minutes before that. Like, I was just like, you got to take yourself more serious, and you just have to get in, and you have to figure out, like, get into these acting classes and get into this world more. And the hard thing about going to acting classes, they're like, oh, Gina Carano. And then you're like, um, well, that's no fun. It's nice to be like, where nobody knows you.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so he kind of picked me out of like the desert of filmmaking, and he put me right center in like one of the most beautiful, plush, educational. I mean, and in Star Wars is like there was a reason why I was supposed to be a part of this, and I every single day to me has been on that set, like just it's just been a dream. It just literally reinforces what I'm doing here, and all of these things and awful things and great things that I've been through. Um, Now more than ever, I feel like I belong somewhere, and that's been really difficult because I haven't really belonged anywhere for a long time. And the Star Wars fans have been. I mean, I always knew about Star Wars fans. I just didn't really know, and they have lifted my spirits, and like I feel like I'm starting to become, hopefully I'm like a baby fan because I have so much to learn, but I absolutely love. I mean, once you reach you watch those stories and you read those stories, and um, it really is a special, thing that has always been tied to what's going on in our world. And there's always been some strange correlation when people need hope. Star Wars kind of shows up. So it's just been really, I don't know, it's just been really kind of like miraculous.
Are you happy now?
I'm so happy.
When's the last time you
Are
were
you?
this happy?
Um, I don't know. I like life is going well. I want to continue get healthier. I want to continue to like, get more comfortable, get better at my craft and keep developing everything. But no, I'm definitely pretty happy right now. With, reservations. I know people can love you one second and then they hate you another, but I just really am. I'm a person that doesn't take anything, the love and where I'm at for granted, and I'm very happy. Are you happy?
I'm pretty happy. Yeah, I can't complain. Yeah, things are good.
Yeah.
It's
I
amazing.
hope.
Sorry, go ahead.
I hope this interview is
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
It, it is
I hope it
coming
was
to an
something.
end in a matter of moments, so don't worry. I've taken up way too much
No,
of
no,
your time.
no. I mean, like, I hope it was worth waiting for. I didn't mean to make you wait. I really did just want to be proud of whatever, I was gonna come talk to you about.
It's a great reason, honestly. And in a weird way, I almost kind of loved the fact that you were the only one to not appear on the show in a weird way, because that was like, it was almost like fitting in a weird way. And people would ask me why. And I'm like, I don't know why, but it almost, I don't know, it just kind of works. But I will just say this, like, and I want people to know this, because I kind of played it up like, oh, you won't come on the show, won't come on the show. But like, you've been very kind to me, and even when I was going through tough times, you would always write to me personally, and that always meant a lot. That you always remembered me despite everything that you were going through. So I just wanted to thank you for that as well, because you would always just like pop up out of nowhere, and so I appreciated that very much.
Well, I am a fan, even though I don't watch your show. I'm a
Yeah.
fan of I'm a fan of you, which is I'm a fan of I care about where your life goes, and I'm happy that you have three boys and a wife, and I'm happy. And it really pisses me off when they threw you out of the UFC thing when at that conference, whatever. It really like enraged me, and I was like on the point of like, just like what the hell's wrong with people? He's just doing his job and he's doing it well, and he's asking tough questions, and so so I've always been a fan of yours, and I'll always have your back. So if you ever, need it. But maybe not another interview for like 10
Yeah,
years.
geez. So what is it? Can we say it on the record? Is this like it for 10 years? Probably even more now. It took me 11 years to
I
get you here. So this actually could be the last time we ever speak. So I hope you have a great life. I do think you broke some news though. Season 2, are you already doing that for Mandalorian?
Yeah,
Is that
so I was
news?
doing no, it was
Oh,
premiere. We did the premiere for it, and John Favreau came up behind me in an interview, and he's like, "Listen, she's been like doing a fight scene all day today, so we're having her back for season 2, obviously." And so that was the news there. So yeah, for all those people that are usually like, "Oh my God, did she get killed off?" Or like, nope, I'm still here.
wow. Okay. So I'm looking forward to it. I watched last night. I didn't see you. I think it was episode 3. So I will watch episode 4. I'm a proud subscriber. My daughter loves it. It's 2 boys and a girl, by the way, just for the record.
Amazing.
And maybe she will be a fighter like you one day. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But this has been wonderful. It really has. And now I don't know what to do in my life. Like what are my goals now? I have nothing left to accomplish. You finally appeared on my show. This is it. I feel like it's over
Oh,
now.
stop.
There's nothing
You
left.
know
This is
what?
the mountaintop. It's all downhill from here.
No, that's the thing is now you develop a whole new goal, which is where I'm at. Like, Star Wars, I couldn't even imagine this mountaintop. But now my brain just like just developed this whole new thing. And so you just never know where we're gonna be from here, you know? You just never know what's gonna happen.
Okay. Well, hopefully this isn't the last time ever, period. Hopefully we'll talk again. And
I wanted to do this in person, but
I know you did, and I wanted it as well, but it just was. You're very busy. You have a lot of things on your plate, your schedule, and
my sister had a baby.
congratulations, Mazel Tov to your sister. Yes,
Yeah.
and I believe your father was inducted into the
Yeah.
Chicago Sports Hall of Fame.
Chicago.
So you guys are very busy, and I just want to say to your agent Scott, thank you, and I won't bother him for at least another 6 to 8 months because I have been bothering that man for at least the last 5 to 6 years, and he's probably really annoyed of me. So I want to thank him as well for being instrumental in making this happen. This has been so great. I really want to thank you so much for doing it. I want to congratulate you on all your success. You were a pioneer, a trailblazer in the world of MMA, women's MMA. You were the face of it. And now you're a pioneer. You're an inspiration for all those fighters who want to do something next, right? The next chapter. You're making it in Hollywood. And that's really hard to do, especially for MMA fighters. So it's so great that one of our own is involved in Star Wars. And, from Elite XC on CBS to this and from before that, it's really wonderful. So thank you for always being so great, for being an inspiration, a role model. And thank you for, letting the world know that I was holding that microphone too long because that changed everything. I really mean that. Thank you so much, Gina. I really appreciate this and
Thank
congratulations.
you guys. Thank you guys for all your support and those who stuck with me and you, Ariel. Thank you guys because it means the world.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Gina. There she
Okay.
is. The great Gina Carano in person, on the program, in the flesh. It actually happened. Wow. I am overcome with joy and emotion. That one meant a lot. I enjoyed that. And I just want to thank the Skype gods for making the connection as good as it was. Because I will say the one thing that was really worrying me all day as I was driving here was if this Skype connection is no good and I finally got Gina Carano on my show, I just might never do this show ever again. I just might end it right here and there. I cannot deal with that. And so it was great. So thank you so much. As you know, as I've said on the show many a times, Gina has meant a lot to not just me, but a lot of people covering the sport, fans of the sport. And she's an elusive one, and she doesn't do that often. And the fact that she just did this for an hour on the program is an incredible way to end the year for all of us. So thank you so much to her and her team for doing that. And if you have not seen The Mandalorian, if you are even not a fan of Star Wars, I highly recommend it. It's on Disney Plus right now. It comes out every week, and it's just great. A lot of you new fans may not be familiar with who she is and what she's accomplished, but there is no women's MMA without her. There is no, UFC women's bantamweight title fight at UFC 245 without her. There is no Ronda Rousey without her. She opened all those doors. And yes, there were people that came before her, but if it was not for her, there is no such thing as women's MMA to where it is today, on the stage that it is today, accepted the way it is today. And she deserves all that credit. And that's why I've said, one of the first things I ever said on Ariel and the Bad Guy, she should be in the Hall of Fame. Whether it's the UFC Hall of Fame, whether it's the MMA Hall of Fame, she should be in there because of what she has accomplished and the doors that she opened up for all those women. She is a pioneer and a trailblazer, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. I will fight you, all right? So there you have it. Gina Carano on the program. Unbelievable. Hello, everyone. It's Ariel Helwani. I just came here to thank you for watching our ESPN YouTube channel. It's the best. You know what else is the best? The ESPN app. You can get highlights, analysis, all that stuff and more. And if you want premium content and live streaming sports, there's only one place for all of that. It's ESPN Plus.